Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots. Who look at shows just like Star Spassels, liberals, conservatives, libertarians, apolitical. I'm East Lydia. Today I want to talk about CPAC and also this new GOP internal study. Let me make clear right from the very start that I consider myself an independent conservative. And I generally lean towards libertarian on most issues, but I'm willing to look at little bits and pieces of the status quo GOP platforms and little bits and pieces of liberal policies. Very little. But that said, just want to make it clear that I'm coming in from the inside when I talk about CPAC and I talk about this internal GOP study. So let me talk about the study first, because once again, we find the GOP trying to hold on to the old system, the old guard, the old ways, and just supposedly deliver their message better. And if that's all they found out with this internal report, then it's a sorry day indeed, because the GOP really needs to get their shit together. And they know that, but they're off on the wrong trail again, because they're bureaucrats and they're politicians and they're weasels. So here we go. A blunt self-critique by the National Republican Party concludes that while the GOP is flourishing in many state capitals, it is, quote, increasingly marginalized and out of touch at the federal level, unquote. So what they're saying is that all these governors, like Governor Christie, are a shining beacon of what Republican leadership can do, but that our congressmen have failed us. And I can hardly disagree with that for the most part. And they also said that they have want to make sure that they are more inclusive and appealing, and that they're reaching out beyond the core of Republican adherents. But of course, with the way the GOP works, and as in fact the Democrats as well, of course they just appeal to their own adherents. That's the whole problem, and that's what it's all about. And but this is the bombshell in this report. It says, unless changes are made, the report states it will be increasingly difficult for Republicans to win another presidential election in the near future. So, wow, that's getting their attention. So they have a nearly 100-page analysis compiled in the past several months by 5 veteran GOP campaign advisors, and it describes the party as ideologically rigid, still clinging to the days of Ronald Reagan, unable to speak to a wider electorate, and increasingly viewed by voters as indifferent to the struggles of average people. Well, bingo. Good job there. That's pretty fair criticism of the status quo GOP party, at least on some levels. The party is ideologically rigid, and they are still clinging to the days of Ronald Reagan. Coincidentally, they don't cling to the days of George W. Bush Jr. They don't cling to the days of George Bush Sr. They don't cling to the days of Nixon, but they cling to the days of Reagan. And that's going on 30 some odd years now, and time to move on. And as Janet Jackson says, what have you done for me lately? And unable to speak to a wider electorate. Well, that is definitely part of the problem. So, of course, the GOP is going to try and reach out to Hispanics and speak their language, and reach out to women and speak their language. And they have a lot of damage to control. So good luck on that. But if you bring in more libertarian ideas, then it won't be such a struggle to expand the scope of what the GOP is capable of. So, and then in focus groups, voters who have left the Republican Party said they found the GOP to be scary, narrow-minded, out of touch, and the party of stuffy old men. So bingo again. There we have with the GOP status quo. And why wouldn't they think that way? Look at all the candidates that were paraded out in this last election cycle. And incidentally, most of them showed up at the recent CPAC conference, but I'll get to that later. So they're now going to reach out to minority groups and young voters to bolster its online targeting of supporters and create a permanent campaign presence. And The panel also proposed changes to how the GOP chooses its presidential nominees, such as limiting the number of primary debates. And they want a shortened primary schedule with fewer debates to help better funded candidates who would have the money to build name recognition. So basically what they're driving at is they want to get rid of all the distractions. They want to focus on one status quo candidate because they think that's the reason Mitt Romney lost, is because there was too much diffusion between him and other Republican candidates. And there may or may not be some truth to that. But in the end, Mitt Romney failed because he's a failed candidate. So so they're looking in the wrong direction here as well. And then to grow as a party, the RNC assessment points out Republican policymakers must realize that economically struggling voters don't care if the help comes from the private sector or the government. They just want help. So I guess the GOP is going to start getting in on the welfare game now, but that's would be an interesting development. So anyway, here we go with all this rigmarole, and basically what it means is that the GOP party is not going to really change any of their policies. Like all politicians and all governments, they're just going to hire a new PR firm because their problem is their public image. They think that's all that's wrong, is their message is not getting delivered correctly, and they have the wrong public image. So they're going to hire a new publicity firm to, give them a makeover and, make them seem more young and hip. So it's not going to work. You're looking in the wrong place. This party needs to embrace new ideas and return to its foundations. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but Ron Paul's shown us the way. Rand Paul is on the right track, and this is the direction the party needs to go in. And it's been spoken. The true grassroots movement in America has spoken, and this is where the GOP is going to drive its new power. Instead, they're plotting the future. Here's their high points of their plotting for the future. Address the perception that the GOP does not care about people. Hire a new PR firm. Hire minority communications and political directors for certain communities. Pander to tokenism. Create a new voter database and related tools that all campaigns can use. So streamline everything so everybody's on the same page. Because remember all that confusion in the last election when little bits of democracy actually peaked out. Encourage PACs and outside groups to invest in field staff and technology, not just TV ads. So yeah, they need more cameras out there, more exposure, more interviews with all the mucky mucks. Push to increase contribution limits for federal campaigns so candidates have an equal voice with super PACs. Yeah, like anybody's going to have an equal voice with super PACs, but yeah, you definitely want to push those contribution limits because you want all the money you can get your fucking hands on. Limit the number of presidential primary debates. Yeah, so they want to make sure that Ron Paul never happens again. Ever. And make sure they get rid of some of the more swirly candidates and just focus in on the one that they can control the most and who is the most consummate political machine, somebody like Mitt Romney. And next one is hold the party's national convention earlier in the summer. Yeah, that's, hold the convention in the middle of summer. That way we can have tailgating and roasted weenies. But yeah, timing is everything. It's the time they have their convention. That's what was a problem. Oh yeah, maybe it was because of the weather last time. And be inclusive and welcoming in stances on social issues, in part to attract young people and women. Same thing the Catholic Church wants to do. Then embrace comprehensive immigration reform. Okay, so they're finally going after the minority vote with immigration reform. And I know, that's pretty much a one-issue crowd. So if the GOP panders to Hispanics and immigration reform, whether it has merits or not, it's a good political move. Act early to place field staff in states the party hasn't traditionally won. So they want to infiltrate more of the Democratic states with more GOP. So that ought to fix everything too. So, but let's not talk about any principles or anything. Let's not really get to what would make the GOP a viable party, and that would be to infuse libertarian ideas into the party. That's where it has to go. Those are the only solutions for this country, the GOP better adopt those solutions because the Democrats aren't going to do it. So it's up to you, GOP. You have to adapt libertarian ideas whether you want to or not, because it's the only thing that's going to save this country. So, that said, let's move on to CPAC. The CPAC conference show that the GOP is getting it? I would suggest not. We want some new ideas. We want some fresh ideas. So Rand Paul won. That is a shining light. And that gives me hope that something could happen. And Jeff Frazee, the head of Young Americans for Liberty, a college networking organization from Campaign for Liberty, and that is wonderful. But then you look at the rest of the lineup. You have Alan West, Ann Coulter, Michelle Bachmann, Rick Santorum, Jeb Bush, Newt Gingrich, Sarah Palin, Mitch McConnell, Rick Perry, Paul Ryan, Mitt Romney, and Donald Trump. Are you fucking kidding me? This is the best lineup you can get. This is the bright future of the new GOP. Look at that lineup. They're the same deadbeats we've had around for the last 20 or 30 years. There's no new ideas there. They're carrying the torch for the old status quo. The same status quo party that's in lockstep with the Democrats that the GOP hates so much. Exact same policies with a few minor differences for social issues. And I've said it a million times, but the Dempublicans and the Republicrats are the same on all the big issues. They are indistinguishable. So here is a chance for the GOP to counter that, to counter the fact that we can't tell the difference between the GOP and the Democrats anymore. Can't tell the difference between Bush and Obama, other than we take Bush and compress it down to 4 years instead of 8, and then we have Obama. So other than that, not much difference. So here we are. This is the lineup from CPAC talking about the next elections, and we have that kind of tired old lineup. Fortunately, we're seeing Paul Ryan star fade away quickly, and I think everyone knows that Donald Trump and Rick Perry are sideshow freaks. And Sarah Palin is just there to promote her books. And Alan West, all I can say about him is he is as status quo as they come. And just because he panders to some Tea Party elements, and he's a very articulate man and a veteran, just because I agree with him on a lot of points doesn't make him all the more unnerving for me, considering the points about him I don't like. And Ann Coulter, it just needs to shut up. And Michelle Bachmann just needs to shut up. And Jeb Bush has been shutting up for a long time, and I suggest he continues that. So there you have it. So there's status quo GOP warmonger statists out there that want to bring it on, feel free to write some comments, and we'll take it from there. But the rest of you know what I'm talking about. The GOP needs to open its eyes. It's not about hiring a new PR firm. It's not about dragging out all those old dinosaurs and talking about the future. We need more new, young ideas, more new, interesting ideas, more old ideas, the Founding Fathers' ideas, the Founding Fathers and the Constitution's ideas. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.